everybody. I'm Whitney Krause, president at Ipsos US, and we're here to talk about the evolving space in luxury. Leah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Leah Wyar, and I'm the president of the beauty, style, and entertainment brands at Dotdash Meredith, so People, Entertainment Weekly, In Style, Birdie, Brides.
Wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about the research, and I'll maybe kick things off. So what we were trying to understand is sort of the evolving space of the luxury brand. And so thinking about different entrants into the market, thinking about like who really are those consumers, and we found some really interesting things. Some of the things that I think are popping up to me are different generations entering the space. We had a kind of a whole deep dive profile on sort of how Gen Z is interacting with luxury, in particular the expectations that they have on luxury brands and how that's shifting. We have some really interesting findings about the way that Hispanic consumers are interacting with luxury, what their expectations are in terms of personalization. Leah, could you talk a little bit about like how are those different groups, some that I've mentioned, entering the luxury space? Because it's different for different groups of people.
Yeah,
right?
It's definitely different. Gen Z, for example, is obsessed with beauty. That's where they go first. Mm-hmm. The Hispanic and millennials are entering through style.
Interesting.
Boomers through travel. Mm-hmm. LGBTQ through food. And I think what's really interesting is Gen Z and the Hispanic communities, they are not just entering through beauty and style, which are pretty common to enter through, but then they're going straight to things that help them plan their finances, which I think is fascinating to me, that is considered a luxury now, that you can start early and manage your wealth through the next few decades, and I find that to be like a really, really big shift.
It is. It's such an interesting finding because it also likely has services that are going to allow you to also build more wealth over time. But also, I think there was a point that you had mentioned about it's also about how the finances play out in the actual shopping experience. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, totally. So it's not just about planning for wealth; it's about how to pay for this stuff.
Okay.
And so all these new financial options, like buy now, pay later, or paying for luxury in installments, it's allowing people who maybe aren't making $150,000 a year yet, that usual marker. Mm-hmm. It's allowing them to be in the game, and they all want to be in the game. I mean, we said 9 out of 10 Americans are considering taking action on a luxury purchase, mm-hmm. right? Like that is a Gen Pop stat, 90% of America.
Unbelievable.
So, that's why there's so many different shades of gray here, and people are entering in different places and staying for different reasons.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned the lower income threshold piece too, because something that I think was so striking for me is also this huge emphasis throughout the research about the accessibility piece now in terms of entrance into the luxury space. And so, I think historically we've thought that having that higher income, like that was a category that you sort of had to reach to or get to be able to play in this space. And I think one of the really interesting things that we're finding is like that doesn't count anymore necessarily. People are looking for ways to incorporate luxury into their everyday lives, agnostic of sort of where you are from an income perspective. I thought there was a really interesting stat that 70% of people feel like they define luxury as like fitting into their everyday life, into their everyday essentials. And so when you think about, ways that you can introduce that in terms of beauty products, in terms of things that are in your home, potentially a nice coffee maker. There was a great piece that I read about how people are thinking about even like domestic travel because it's not necessarily as expensive, but then doing something really special for a weekend, like a really remote Airbnb or something that feels really sort of relevant or interesting in your area. So it's really about that, like sort of all those different entrants, and you're able to do that even at some of these, lower income bands, which is great.
Actually love that because it's saying that price tag doesn't equate to luxury. Mm-hmm. Like, it is about the experience. It's like about buying the special olive oil and drizzling it on your burrata and making it feel like this amazing experience. And that is what is becoming the norm. Mm-hmm. Not just saving this for special occasions, not these like status symbols, you're doing it because maybe you feel accomplished and you're rewarding yourself. It's a different almost form of self-care in a way. So it's just a totally different narrative and a new era in luxury that I find to be so exciting and democratized.
Mm-hmm. And so talk to me, like, how can Dotdash Meredith sort of support these luxury consumers? Like, how does this fit into the brands that you oversee and manage? Talk to me about that.
Well, I mean, Dotdash Meredith has brands that are just endemically catering to these readers and consumers in all of these categories that we mentioned: finance, food, wine, beauty, style. We have brands like Food and Wine and Travel and Leisure and Birdie and InStyle. So we have all of this portfolio that's already speaking to these people. I think the most important thing is that we have always spoken to them in this really inclusive way. It has never been from like
so important
way up here. So we don't need to shift that. We're already there. We're talking to them in a way that feels inclusive, in a way that helps direct them if they're just starting out. You know, a lot of these groups are saying like, I need a little help. Like help me find this stuff, help me get there. And so we do that. We've always done that. It just feels like such a natural progression, and that we can really service this, you know, totally new emerging luxury consumer.
Yeah, I love that you can speak to the fact that it's a real like extension to some degree of like how you're already operating and how you're already hoping that, you know, consumers of all types can be interacting with the information that they might find in some of your different publications. So I love that. So Leah, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have such a fantastic rest of your time in Cannes.
You too.
It's so great to be on the beach. Thanks.
Enjoy.